That's not the plan. Did the traditional magazines at the time, were they hating? Or did they embrace you? Because at the time, there's like this weird, like, I don't know, man. There's like the Source really turned into like a weirdo magazine for a little bit. And then, obviously Elliott Wilson was running circles around him at XXL for a sec. And it felt like such a competitive space.
I have some funny stories about that. I mean, and so we're moving a little forward. Like by this time, 2005-ish. Like
you guys have been up and running for a while.
I'm realizing like there's really some money in this.
Right.
And I think what showed me too, like the early issues, I'd send like a box to like Montgomery, Alabama or something. And I'd send like 4 boxes to Miami thinking like, oh, Miami's a bigger market. And people in Miami, I mean, they liked it, but they're kind of like, they have, 3 radio stations and they have,
Miami's a booming city.
Places to go. Like the artists there don't really need a platform, whereas I would get like 100 calls from Montgomery with all these DJs, artists, people that want to get down. So I started to see there was a market, and the South is full of Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Birmingham. Sure, I mean, there's so many like Tennessee, sort of mid-level markets that just don't have, at that time they didn't have social media. Mm-hmm. So if there's an artist they're trying to get on, they don't have YouTube to show people what they look like. So they would advertise in the magazine. So I saw that there was a real market there. So Elliott Wilson, saw him yesterday, a couple days ago. So, I mean, we're cool and stuff, but he's always been one to kind of like take shots at different people. So funny story about him. Well, I remember at one point I would go to New York and I would like drop off magazines places. So I stopped by XXL one time just to drop off some magazines. And he was like the only person in the office. I think it was like 8 o'clock in the evening or whatever. And I just remember he said, oh, you're not from around here, are you? Like, and to me, it was like people in New York kind of, I don't know if he meant it to be like I took it a certain way. I don't know that he meant it that way. But to me, if I ask somebody where they're from and they say like Houston or the Bay or LA, like I kind of have a sense of like where they're from and what kind of, environment they're dealing with. And I felt like New Yorkers had this idea like you're either from New York or you're not. And it's one or the other. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of how I perceived it. Was like, oh, you're not from here, so you're just, I don't really care where you're from. I don't know where you're from.
You're not from
here.
Just
not from here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I took it. But later on, like maybe a couple years down the road, we had never been able to get a distribution deal. Not that I don't know that I put a whole lot of effort into it, but it was always like a street kind of thing.
Like you're getting your own printing done and you're
everything. We load up the van, drive to Yeah,
because I would see your guys' stuff at like record stores, like small like independent record stores. Like I think I might have saw it at like Tower Records.
We eventually did get a distribution deal, so I had been trying. There's really, at that time, there might have been like 2 or 3 distributors, but there's really only like one big distributor, which is Curtis, and they did XXL and Source and all that. And I had been.
Who would have thought they were the same distributor? So they were they were distributing both.
They were distributing like any newsstand you go to, pretty much goes through Curtis, at least from what I recall. And I had sent them copies of the magazine. They sent us like this standard like rejection letter or whatever, and. I hired a consultant to try to harass them and try to get us a distribution deal. But I said something about XXL in my editorial, and Elliott responded. Like he put a little liner, something about ozone or whatever. And so I copied it and sent it.
Because he would write his little like.
He was always taking shots at the sauce and like all this stuff. But he said something about like, oh, go down south with the ozone, or like it was something that could be interpreted as like a diss back to us. So I copied it, sent it to the distributor. And I don't know if that was what did it or the consultant or whatever, but we got a distribution deal. And so it kind of showed.
So shout out to him.
I felt like, if you're distributing this product and they're like, if you're battling with somebody, they're an equal, basically. So, but the Source, I mean, I met Boo Rosario pretty early on. He was a music editor or one of the music editors at the Source, and he did the photo galleries in the back. So I started sending him stuff, and I would be super excited if I got like, my little name.
So you were getting your pics sometimes in the back of the Source, just on the photography.
I would send them like hundreds of pictures, and they might pick, 2 or 3 might make it. But I'd be excited about that. And I met Kim. And shout out to Kim. She was the editor at that point. She had come down to Miami, I think, to shoot Trina or something. And I would kind of throw it out there like, you guys should hire me to work this out. Like, I didn't feel like anyone took that super seriously, but they did start giving me like a little assignment here and there, and that's when they were, I think, starting to fall apart as far as the on the business side, and then
Right.
also the Eminem thing was going on.
Right.
It was a lot happening at that